Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about one of the most dramatic events of the war, the destruction of the Crimea Bridge, often called Putin's symbol of power. This bridge has stood as a physical and political link between Russia and the annexed region of Crimea. But now it's once again been rocked by a massive explosion, a fiery blast that has left the world stunned and Moscow scrambling for answers. What really happened on that bridge? Who carried out the attack? And what does this mean for the future of the war? Let's break it down step by step. The Crimea Bridge, officially known as the Kerch Strait Bridge, isn't just a piece of infrastructure. It represents Russia's control, pride, and its claim over Crimea. Built after Russia's 2014 annexation of the peninsula, the bridge was personally inaugurated by Vladimir Putin himself, driving a truck across it to show the world that Crimea was now firmly in Russian hands. It became a national symbol, one that carried not only military supplies but also the weight of political legitimacy. So when it was struck, it wasn't just steel and concrete that broke, it was a blow to Russian prestige. Reports began flooding in shortly after midnight. A powerful explosion had rocked the bridge, lighting up the night sky. Flames rose from the structure, and plumes of smoke could be seen for miles. Early videos showed sections of the bridge collapsing into the sea, cars burned out on the roadway, and what appeared to be debris scattered across the span. The Russian government immediately labeled it a terrorist act, pointing fingers at Ukraine. But as always, the full story is far more complex. Within hours, Russian media scrambled to control the narrative. They claimed the explosion was caused by a truck bomb, later suggesting it might have been a naval drone strike. Ukrainian officials, on the other hand, gave cryptic responses. They didn't confirm responsibility, but several key Ukrainian sources hinted that the operation was part of a broader campaign to cut off Russia's logistical lifeline to occupied territories. The message was clear: Crimea is not untouchable. This was not the first time the Crimea Bridge had been targeted. Back in 2022, an earlier explosion destroyed parts of the bridge, temporarily halting traffic and causing chaos in Russian supply routes. That earlier attack became one of the defining moments of the conflict, showing Ukraine's ability to strike deep behind enemy lines. This new blast, however, is different in scale and timing. It came at a moment when Russian forces were already stretched thin across multiple fronts, and when Ukraine was pushing hard with counteroffensive operations in the south. Satellite imagery released soon after the attack showed severe structural damage. One section of the roadway had collapsed into the water, while another appeared warped by the force of the blast. The railway section, crucial for transporting military equipment, was also affected. This wasn't a symbolic strike, it was a calculated effort to choke off one of Russia's most important supply arteries. Russia reacted quickly but chaotically. Emergency teams rushed to the scene, trying to assess the damage. Traffic was halted indefinitely, and ferries were scrambled to transport supplies and civilians across the Kerch Strait. Moscow vowed revenge. Putin called the explosion an act of sabotage and accused Ukraine's intelligence services of orchestrating it. In his words, it was an attack not only on Russian infrastructure, but on Russia itself. But behind the scenes, something deeper was happening. Analysts say this explosion reveals a major vulnerability in Russia's military logistics. The bridge was a key lifeline connecting Russia's mainland with Crimea and further with southern Ukraine. Everything from ammunition to food supplies to reinforcements moved through that route. By disrupting it, Ukraine effectively tightened the noose around Russian forces in occupied areas. This wasn't just a show of power, it was a strategic strike. The symbolism cannot be overstated. The Crimea Bridge was more than concrete and steel. It was the physical embodiment of Russia's claim to Crimea. To Putin, it was personal. He often referenced the bridge in speeches as proof of Russia's engineering might and a symbol of national pride. Its destruction, therefore, wasn't just a military loss. It was a humiliation, a public spectacle that directly challenged his authority. Ukrainian sources described the operation as one of their most complex to date. Some analysts believe a combination of sea drones, explosive-laden unmanned boats, and intelligence coordination made the strike possible. These maritime drones have become one of Ukraine's most effective weapons, capable of reaching deep into Russian controlled waters and hitting high-value targets. The strike showed how modern warfare is rapidly evolving, where small, smart, and remote weapons can outmaneuver massive armies. The psychological impact of this attack is also enormous. For months, Russia had promised its citizens that Crimea was safe, that its defenses were impenetrable, but now that illusion has been shattered. Residents in Crimea woke up to shock and fear. Reports from the region described panic buying, traffic jams leaving the peninsula, and widespread concern about what might come next. The idea that Crimea could be vulnerable again is a terrifying one for Russia. Internationally, the blast reignited debate about escalation. Western nations watched closely as Moscow's rhetoric turned increasingly aggressive. Many feared that Putin could use the attack as justification for another round of missile strikes on Ukrainian cities, as he did after the 2022 explosion. And within Russia itself, nationalist commentators demanded retaliation, calling for strikes against Ukraine's infrastructure in response. But others quietly admitted if Russia can't even protect its most prized bridge, what does that say about its military strength? This latest strike also underscores a shift in Ukraine's strategy. Rather than only defending its territory, Ukraine has taken the fight to the heart of Russian control zones. By targeting infrastructure like the Crimea Bridge, it sends a clear message: nowhere is safe. Every rail line, every supply depot, every port connected to the war effort is fair game. This approach has reshaped the conflict, forcing Russia to stretch its resources thinner and thinner. As the fire burned through the night, the images told their own story: the bridge engulfed in flames, twisted steel illuminated against the dark sea. For Ukrainians, it was a moment of defiance, a reminder that resistance was alive. For Russians, it was a moment of reckoning. The war, once thought to be distant, had struck at the very core of national pride. Western analysts have already begun dissecting the implications. Some believe this could mark a turning point in the war, not because of the immediate damage, but because of what it represents. The loss of logistical stability will force Russia to reroute supplies through longer, riskier paths, slowing its operations in southern Ukraine. It could also strain morale among troops who are already battling fatigue, shortages, and low confidence in leadership. For Putin personally, this event cuts deep. His regime has long used the bridge as a symbol of success, a monument to Russia's control over Crimea. The destruction and the images that followed dealt a blow to that narrative. The Kremlin's attempts to censor footage and downplay the damage only fueled more speculation and criticism online. Across Russian social media, anger and confusion spread. Some called it incompetence. Others quietly questioned how such a heavily guarded target could be hit again. Meanwhile, Ukraine's allies praised the precision and daring of the attack. They viewed it as a necessary step to weaken Russia's occupation and disrupt its war machinery. Though official statements were careful, Western intelligence officials privately admitted admiration for the operation's effectiveness. Every strike like this chips away at Russia's ability to sustain its offensive, bringing the end of the war a little closer. Economically, the repercussions are significant. The bridge was vital for civilian trade and tourism between Russia and Crimea. With it out of service, costs will rise, logistics will suffer, and the sense of isolation in Crimea will deepen. For the people living there, it's another reminder that the war's shadow looms larger than ever. As morning came after the blast, the once proud bridge now stood as a twisted symbol of defeat. Repair crews began assessing the wreckage, but experts say full restoration could take months, maybe longer, and even if it's rebuilt, the psychological damage can't be undone. The bridge will always carry the memory of its destruction, a reminder that power can crumble in an instant. In the bigger picture, this attack reinforces a harsh truth. The war is entering a new, more unpredictable phase. Ukraine's confidence and capability are growing, while Russia is struggling to adapt to a modern, agile enemy. Each strike, each explosion, carries weight far beyond the battlefield. It's a contest not only of armies, but of wills, of endurance, and of symbols. Putin's symbol of power has been wiped out, and with it, perhaps, a part of his image of invincibility. The world is watching to see how he responds with escalation, negotiation, or desperation. But one thing is clear, the message has been sent loud and clear. Ukraine is not backing down. The bridge, once a proud declaration of Russian strength, now stands as a smoking testament to resistance and change. And as the smoke settles over the Kerch Strait, one can't help but feel that history has once again shifted. The war is far from over, but moments like this define its course. The destruction of the Crimea Bridge is more than an explosion, it's a statement, one that echoes far beyond the Black Sea, across Europe, and deep into the halls of the Kremlin itself. This is a moment that will be studied, analyzed, and remembered for years to come, the night when Putin's symbol of power crumbled into the sea, and the war's balance began to shift once more.